Welcome back to another weekly Forex forecast, everybody. We will get right into this week's forecast. So looking at the weekly chart of the DXY first, reminder, we have a weekly demand and control, the green line or the green zone, and the dotted lines is monthly demand. So we have been expecting to see the dollar at least push up to weekly supply, and that's what I still think we could see. The evidence we have seen for that to potentially take place is the fact that we have reacted not only once, but twice off of our daily area of demand, also breaking a daily downward trend line, which is a bullish sign. But the ultimate bullish sign would be a daily upward trend and trend line. That would be really a lot of evidence to suggest we will be pulling back up to that weekly supply that I was just referring to on the DXY. As far as the lower time frames go here on, I know the 4 hours on a lower time frame, but it is as far as my trading sequences go. We had a strong sign. We broke above this high, giving us a 4-hour trend line. Looks like it was just some sort of liquidity sweep here, as we clearly have broken down here below the 4-hour trend line. Now, that's a pretty bearish sign. It's not super bearish, I will say, but what's even more bearish about it is not only did we break the 4-hour upward trend line, we also have a 1-hour downward trend and trend line as well. So that's the fact that we have this combined with the 4-hour trend line break. It's a pretty bearish sign, I will admit. So as long as this trend line's holding, we could expect the DXY to continue to fall this week. If we break the 1-hour trend line, that's going to be a bullish sign, but then we will also need a 1-hour trend line to the upside to really suggest that the dollar is going to be going up this week. And if we do break to the upside, we have a 4-hour supply zone above at 99.34. I think if we do push up to here, I don't think we're going to blast right through the zone. I think we will break the zone. But what I think we could see is maybe a small reaction off the zone first before we end up breaking it. So as far as the 4-hour chart goes this week, I'll be monitoring the 4-hour supply. If we do push up to it, also the 1-hour trend line to the downside. All right, moving on to the forecast for the euro US dollar. So looking at the daily time frame here, we have a daily downward trend line, and we are clearly pushing up towards that trend line now. So seeing what happens at this trend line will be a pretty big test on the euro US dollar. And by the way, guys, I don't do any mid-roll ads on these videos. I know how annoying that is when you're watching here on YouTube. So if you guys appreciate that, hit that like button on the video and subscribe if you're new to my channel. I do these forecasts for free every single Saturday. As far as the euro goes in the 4-hour chart, for those of you who've been following my forecast for a while, we were pointing out this 4-hour demand zone trade, and it is finally taking off in the direction in our favor. I think that this move could be short-lived, though. If you are long from this trade, a stop below here, a stop taking 80% of your trade off, probably a good idea. Right now we have a 4-hour trend to the upside, no trend line though. So to me, that's a pretty unsustainable trend. If we break this 4-hour demand zone, any supply zone there would be a pretty good shorting opportunity on the euro US dollar. As far as trading it goes now, we had a pretty good zone here. That was a pretty, not devastating loss, just a pretty terrible loss. I thought we definitely would see a move off of it, but you can't win every single trade. I try to be transparent here on my channel as well. So if you guys like that, if you like transparency, this is the channel for you guys. As far as trading the euro goes now, I don't really see any new zones as far as my chain analysis goes, but we do have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. So if you were a day trader, this is our trend line that we want to be monitoring. And we will be throwing a channel tool on this trend line to see where we are at. And we are actually sitting right below the 50% mark of the channel. So if you're a day trader on a 5-minute time frame or even a 1-minute time frame, as long as this trend line's holding and we are below the 50% mark, basically anywhere in this area, that's going to be our go-ahead for 5-minute time frame long trades. And if you're bearish on the euro, I'm not really seeing many setups right now, but if we do break the 1-hour trend line and we have a 1-hour supply zone there, that will be our supply zone short on the euro. Alrighty, moving on to the forecast for gold. So not a whole lot to go off of in the weekly or on the daily. We've kind of just been doing a whole lot of nothing lately on gold. But like I've been telling all of the members here, guys, we want to be aggressive with trade management no matter how you guys are trading. So as far when I say that is on gold, because just due to the market conditions, gold can spike up or down based off world events. So we don't want to be caught in a trade like that where we're already in profit. But anyways, moving on, we have this purple box represents resistance, liquidity. You can see 1, 2, 3 reactions now with our 4-hour supply zone above at 46.04. So if you were bearish on gold, that's our 4-hour supply zone for a short trade. It's a pretty good zone. I like the liquidity before it. And Again, that's our 4-hour supply zone for a short trade. If you are bullish on gold, we have a couple of options. We actually have 3 options. We wait for this supply to be removed. Any demand zone that removes it, that is going to be our long trade. Let's say we get the short trade off this, we take our profit, price keeps going on and on. We have a 4-hour demand zone sitting down below at 43.96. That is our demand zone for a pullback entry long on the 4-hour time frame. So that is our those are our 2 options for longs based off of the 4-hour chart. There is a 1-hour demand zone sitting right before. So the 4-hour demand zone is down here. The 1-hour demand zone is the zone you see on my charts at 44.39. And unfortunately, those 2 zones failed miserably. Sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it. It's just the way it goes. 4-hour demand zone down below, or sorry, 1-hour demand zone down below, definitely could see a move off this. The only issue with this is that the 4-hour zone sitting right below, and typically what we will see is a small reaction off of the 1-hour demand and then the bigger move off of the 4-hour demand zone down below. So I do think that this 1-hour zone is good for maybe a 1-to-1 move. Aggressive trade management definitely needed all around here on gold, whether you're trading long or short. Moving on to the forecast for the S&P 500. So right now we have a beautiful weekly trend, and with that trend we have a trend line. If you've been watching my channel for a while, I love when we have trend lines. To me, that's a very sustainable trend when we have a trend line with it. As far as the channel tool goes, we are sitting above the 50% mark. I think we could easily push up to the upper end of that channel. We have seen it happen many times before back here. Just want to say we are somewhat a little bit overextended, but I still think we have a little bit of room to go up on the S&P 500. We do have a couple of trading options here. On the 4-hour time frame, we have this 4-hour trend line to the upside. It is drawn from here to here. As long as this 4-hour trend line is being respected, you really could be looking for longs on a 15-minute time frame. If we break the trend line, then we want to hold off and we want to wait for zones to be hit. And we do have a demand zone down at 75.29, a little rally area of demand. It's not a bad zone. The move away is pretty decent. Removed an all-time high. It's not bad. Not my favorite zone though. So what you could do if you're a day trader is wait for this demand zone to be hit on a 4-hour chart and then look for 15-minute or even 5-minute confirmation when this zone is contacted, which basically means look for those time frame demand zones to start to be formed as we contact that area of demand on the S&P 500. And if you want to get my confirmation zones when we hit this, that's something I'll be going over in the daily market breakdown videos for the Diamond members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1-hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question. Private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions. And finally, the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately. Absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So that's our demand zone for a pullback entry long. If we break the demand zone and the trend line and we have a 4-hour supply zone there, it's actually going to be a decent little shorting opportunity. But for short trades on the S&P, we definitely want to be aggressive with trade management. On the 1-hour chart, we have a couple 1-hour zones. This 1-hour zone here is basically inside of that 4-hour demand. So trading the overall 4-hour zone will definitely make you feel a little bit more comfortable. But if you want to narrow down your entry, that is our 1-hour demand zone pullback at 75.28. And below that, we actually have a good little gap zone down below. You can see down there, we have some sort of liquidity trap here forming as well. So if let's say we break the zone, whatever, let's say we get a small win. I would like to see a reaction off of this liquidity. And then at that point, that gap zone will be even better for a long trade at 74.83 on the S&P 500. Moving on to the USDJPY forecast, you can see I have the all-time high marked out here on the weekly, and we have a very sustainable looking trend line to the upside that I think could be used to push price to break the all-time high. So I am bullish on the USDJPY. It has been a little bit tricky to trade. We don't have any trend on the daily chart here, none whatsoever. As far as trading the USDJPY goes right now, we do have a 4-hour supply zone above at 160.20. I think it could be good for a small move. I definitely wouldn't, be trying to get a 10-to-1 trade off the zone. I'd be somewhat aggressive with trade management, meaning take your stop from there, move it to half risk, move it to break even, take 80% of your trade off. If you get a 1-to-1, aggressive trade management definitely preferred at that area of supply. As far as trading the yen goes, if you are a day trader, we do have a pretty nice looking 1-hour trend line to the downside. As long as this trend line's holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are definitely going to be good. And if we throw a channel tool on it, wrong tool, if we throw a channel tool on this, you can see we're at a decent point to do so, as we are not only above the 50% mark, but we're actually near the trend line. So anywhere in this area is going to be preferred for 5-minute time frame shorts on the USDJPY. Moving on to the forecast for the GBPUSD, very sideways on the weekly, very sideways on the daily. Let me just blow up the daily here for a second to show you guys what I am looking at. So we have our high and we have our low. Breaking those would mean a daily trend to the upside or a daily trend to the downside. So until we get that, it is a little bit tricky to determine, where the pound is going to be headed. On the 4-hour chart, you can see we have a 4-hour high right here. Nothing really going on as far as my chain analysis goes. I know some of the members caught this supply zone trade here. I just didn't have that supply zone on my chart per my chain analysis, but the move away is very good. Not blaming them for taking that setup. I just like to follow the rules that I have. As far as this high goes, if we can get that high removed, we will have a very nice and sustainable looking 4-hour trend to the upside. Then we could start to day trade long on a 15-minute time frame. As far as the 1-hour chart goes, I'm just not seeing a whole lot of zones. Well, there's a zone down below we'll talk about in a second. But right now, we have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. As long as this 1-hour trend line's holding, 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good. If we throw a channel tool on this trend line, you can see we are right at that 50% mark. So it might be worth being a little bit patient, wait for near the trend line, then continue to look for longs on the 5-minute time frame. Like I said, we have a kind of an older zone down here on the 1-hour chart. It's not super old or anything. So if you do get a pullback down to that 1-hour zone, that's our 1-hour entry for a long trade. It's just kind of old, so you probably want to be aggressive with trade management. What I would prefer to see is some sort of liquidity here, which means support, then the pullback down. That demand could be even better on the GBPUSD. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. Like I talked about, we are pulling back up to the weekly supply. I was talking about that last week. So far, nice reaction off of that weekly area of supply. We actually have a few trading options here on the USDCAD, whether you are bullish or bearish. If you are bullish, we have this 1-hour trend line or 4-hour trend line to the upside. As long as that's holding, you could justify 15-minute time frame longs. You can see we had a pretty good area of supply over here on the 4-hour chart at 1.38. Liquidity before it, we got what we wanted, which is a reaction off of the liquidity. So what that tells me is that there are clearly stop losses above this resistance, and then that means that supply zone is an even better opportunity for a short trade. Combined with the fact that this 4-hour supply is inside of the weekly supply, it's actually a pretty good shorting opportunity. We can see a decent move to the downside off of that 4-hour area of supply. As far as trading the USDCAD goes right now, we do have a 1-hour trend line to the downside. As long as that's holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be good. We also had a 1-hour trend line, and that was removed by this 1-hour supply at 1.384. If we get a pullback above that supply or to that supply zone, that's our supply zone for a short trade. So to summarize here again, as long as this 1-hour trend line is holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are good. If we break the trend line, hold off on shorts in this area, wait for the supply zone to be hit, and that's our supply zone for a short trade on the USDCAD. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. We have a very nice weekly trend line to the upside. That could be what sustains the trend, that trend line here. As far as trading the Aussie goes right now, we have a couple of options. 4-hour trend's pretty overextended, but you guys notice we had a clear area of resistance multiple times. We are targeting that liquidity, and we have our 4-hour supply zone above at 0.72. Not my favorite zone. The move away just barely qualifies. So if you want to trade short the zone, you can. I would be aggressive with trade management, considering it's not really a great zone. It still qualifies. It's just not the best zone ever. We have to understand that as traders, is not every zone is the same. The best decision here, if you're a day trader, is to wait for the zone to be hit, and then as long as that zone is in control, you could justify 15-minute or even 5-minute time frame shorts using a confirmation entry model. So that will be our supply zone for a short trade and for confirmation trades. As far as getting in long, if you are bullish on the USD Swiss, we have a couple of options. We have a very nice 1-hour trend line to the upside, just barely qualifies as a trend line. I'm not going to get into details, just barely qualifies, but it does qualify. That's our 1-hour trend line for a guide for 5-minute time frame longs. Let's say we break the trend line, we hold off on longs in this area, we are not getting in long, we simply wait for this demand zone to be hit, and that's our pullback entry for a long trade. Again, barely qualifies as a zone, but it does. So in this instance, I'm going to do something I don't always do, but it is somewhat necessary sometimes. We have a much better 1-hour demand zone down below. I'm actually going to make this zone black because it does not fall in line with my chain analysis, but it is the superior zone compared to this one. So I do prefer that demand zone down below at 0.713. The basing is better. The move away is better. Everything about it is better. The price is better as well. So as long as the trend line's holding, 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good. Pullbacks down at that 1-hour zone is going to be our preferred long entry on the Aussie US dollar. Moving on to the forecast for the USD Swiss. Our highest time frame we usually use here is the weekly. Beautiful reaction off of our weekly area of supply. Looking at the daily chart here, clearly some sort of trend line fake out. We are pushing towards this support liquidity now, where there are most likely going to be stop losses with a pretty good daily demand zone there at 0.727. So if we continue to fall, I think we will easily be targeting this liquidity and then see a reaction off of that daily area of demand. So make sure you guys stay tuned to my forecast by subscribing, like I said, if you want to see how that plays out. As far as the 4-hour chart goes here, we have beautiful move off of our 4-hour supply zone. Right there, picture perfect. Not my favorite zone, but we did get a nice move off of it. That was called out before in some of the weekly forecasts that I've done here on YouTube. As far as trading the USD Swiss goes right now, I'm really only seeing one decent quality supply zone. That is at 0.78. Beautiful drop, base drop. One of my favorite looking zones right there. So if we do get a pullback up to that supply, that is our supply zone for a short trade on the USD Swiss. And I mean, there is profit margin to target that daily liquidity that I was talking about. So really all going to revolve around this 1-hour supply. It's really the only thing I'm seeing. That'll be our supply zone for a short. If we remove it, any demand there is going to be our long opportunity on the USD Swiss. Moving on to the forecast for oil, starting with a daily chart here. Just wanted to show you guys how indecisive oil is right now. We've just been ranging. The top end of that range is about 114, 115, and the bottom end is about 88, 87, $86. So just ranging between there. Really difficult to be trading oil right now. But like I've been saying, however you are trading it, you have to be aggressive with trade management. I don't really see anything for trading opportunities on the 4-hour chart unless we can get a pullback to that supply above, but we'll talk about that as we get closer. As far as trading oil goes now, we have a 1-hour trend line to the downside. So basically, if you're a day trader, that is our 1-hour trend line guide for 5-minute time frame shorts. Channel tool shows that we are above the 50% mark, and that's a good time to look for shorts on a 5-minute time frame. So as long as we're above the 50% mark of that channel, that's going to be our guide for shorts. Look at this nice reaction off of our purple zone. This is a very, very old zone from all the way back in April, mid-April. But it is a gap zone. And older zones like this, I like to see another reaction off of clear support, and we are getting that just now. So if you are bullish on oil, that's our demand zone for a pullback entry long. It's a very old zone though. I like that we're reacting off of liquidity. That's definitely a positive sign, as there may be stop losses here. But if you do decide to get in long at the zone, very aggressive trade management is needed because it's such an old zone. Moving on to the forecast, last but not least, Bitcoin. We had our daily supply zone. You can confirm I've had this supply in my chart the entire time. Our supply zone was hit, nice reaction. We are now pulling back towards this trend line. So we definitely could start to see Bitcoin start to rally again. We've had pretty bad couple weeks here on Bitcoin, but I think we could start to rally again based off of that daily trend line there. As far as the 4-hour chart goes, this is our 4-hour trend line guide for 15-minute time frame shorts. But again, we could see a nice reaction there since that daily trend line is coming in contact. Throw a channel tool on, we are actually sitting below the 50% mark. So being patient, waiting for above the 50% mark to continue to look for shorts is definitely preferred if you're shorting on a 15-minute time frame. And then we have a older 4-hour zone back here. It is pretty old, but we have a clear area of support now. What I want to see is a reaction off of this purple box, that support. That's going to tell me there are stop losses here, and that's going to make that 4-hour demand zone even higher odds at 69,079, guys. So that's the price action I would love to see on Bitcoin here. And again, since the daily trend line is coming into control soon, if we break above this 4-hour trend line, any demand zone there, it's going to be a pretty nice trading long option. I drew this 1-hour supply zone yesterday on Bitcoin. I probably drew it a little bit larger. I'm just going to tighten it up now. But beautiful reaction off of the zone so far. So unfortunately, I couldn't point this one out now, just based off of timing. But at this point, if we do break the 1-hour supply, any demand zone there would be a nice trading option on Bitcoin. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.